choice. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice, your choice. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. One mic, one voice.
Welcome to the One Mic, One Voice show, building the collective conscious, a show that is created to give space where your voice, ideas, and informed opinions can be heard, appreciated, and debated. I am Michael Eric Owens, and I'm solo. I am in Blacken Studios, and I'm looking forward to a great show. My co-host is, of course, he's funnin' and sunnin'. And it's a great day to be out of Oklahoma with the overcast, and I'm sure he is enjoying his time. And I'm going to hold it down. And I'm glad you are here with me for this 119th episode. Man, it's pretty exciting. There's a lot going on in our country. Today, the title of our show is "When Will America Change?" And I hear the arguments all this week, and I think I'm referencing what has transpired with the children being taken away from their parents at the border. Kids are being located as far as Texas and Arizona and other places away from the border. I think there's some even kids that have been located in Atlanta and so forth. And so I hear this all the time that America's not like that. How can this happen in America? And I want to say that this is America. And I think we want to be hopeful, right? We always want to see the silver lining. We always want to, give the best narrative that we possibly can. But to be hopeful does not mean you're not truthful. And the reality is, this is America. History itself bears witness to the atrocities of this country. And if truly we believe that the children are our future, I'm not talking just the future of America. I'm talking the future of the human race, right? I mean, you're born, you live, you die. Someone's going to take your place, and guess what? It's probably going to be someone that is a lot younger than you. So, it may be a cliche or platitude, but yeah, the children are our future. And I think a society can be judged by how it takes care of its children and its elderly. And I think there's a lot to be said about America in both of those categories. But I want today to take a look historically. I want us to go back and then come to the present. And I want to give an argument for the fact that when people say, as Elijah Cummings, and we're going to listen to this video here where Representative Cummings really asked the question, what country is that? That is America. Folks, take a listen.
Only willing to use their full arsenal of constitutional weapons to attack Hillary Clinton or protect Donald Trump. Neither the Oversight Committee nor the Judiciary Committee has issued a single subpoena to investigate President Donald Trump on any other topic related to his administration, including the key moral and ethical issue of today, which is the president's new policy to separate children from their families. And so I ask the question, and it is a simple question: are we really going to sit here, 70 members of the Congress of the United States of America, in 2018, and have a hearing that just repeats the hearings the Senate had yesterday on Hillary Clinton's emails? We sent letter after letter, letter after letter, asking these committees to investigate the Trump administration's policy, which is now resulting in child internment camps. That's what I said, child internment camps. But we have gotten no response. Look, even if you believe people entered our country illegally, even if you believe they have no valid asylum claims in their own country, even if you believe immigration should be halted entirely, we all should be able to agree that in the United States of America, we will not intentionally separate children from their parents. We will not do that. We are better than that. We are so much better. We should be able to agree that we will not keep kids in child internment camps indefinitely and hidden away from public view. What country is that? This is the United States of America. We now have reports that parents are being deported, but the Trump administration is keeping their children here. 2018 in America. We do not need legislation. This is a policy, and understand this. This was a policy invented.
What country is that? What country is that? Well, Brother Cummings, I respect him. I think he's a champion for civil rights. I think he's a voice for the voiceless. I respect him so much. He's done so many great things for his community and for the community at large. But I understand his position that he has to, glorify America while criticizing America, right? Because if you don't do that, then you have the anti-American sentiment that is tossed your way, and it's hard to shake that, right? That's why I have to tell people all the time that I served in the Navy for 13 years, because people come at me and say I have this anti-American sentiment. Well, I gave 13 years of my life, honorable years of my life, to this country. So I think I'm in a good position to criticize it, right? And that's what it talks about when it talks about living in a democracy with free speech and so forth, that I have the right as a citizen to be critical of it. But what country is that? Well, Brother Cummings, it's America. It's America. He talks about the key moral issue of the day. Folks, there's nothing new under the sun. This is a repeat of history. And there was a time in history where it was even worse than this, if you can imagine that. Well, we're going to look at that. He says, we are better than this. He makes a statement, we are better than this. But I would turn that into a question to you, America. Are we better than that? Are we? If we were better than that, then why is it happening? If our country is so altruistic, if our country is so loving and so devoted to human rights and devoted to children, why is this happening? What country is that? Got a comment. Elijah says, I do not understand why Trump signs the order for the children to be returned to their parents, but he said that they have 30 days. Why not return them now? Well, it's impossible. Because you want to know why? Because they don't even know where the kids are at, right? We hear that it's 2,300, but that's what the government's telling you. You can't believe anything that's coming from this government, right? If they tell you to look right, you better look left. If they tell you this is good for you, you better leave it alone. You need to think and do the opposite of what this government tells you. But this is nothing new. I'm confused about why people seem to think that, oh, this just happened in America and we have been like, oh my God, America has been just so great. America has made no mistakes. Or that our mistakes are in our past and there were different people and they felt differently. Then 2018 came. And we see the pictures of the children crying at the borders. We see the pictures of the children in cages. This is not, the 18th, 19th century, right? This is the 21st century. Folks, listen, we're going to take a break. But when we come back, we're going to get into this thing because we have to learn. If we want to know how to deal with what is happening today, we have to put our mind to what went on yesterday. Hang in there. We'll be right back.
Oklahoma Humanities Brainbox podcast uses the humanities to take listeners on a deep dive into the issues affecting American society and culture. Join some of Oklahoma's most interesting and knowledgeable humanities scholars to explore how history, literature, ethics, philosophy, and other humanities fields inform our understanding of current events and the human experience. And to find the Brainbox podcast, simply search Brainbox Podcast on iTunes, Podbean, Google Play, and any other podcasting library. If you have any ideas or comments rattling around in your noggin, email us at brainbox@okhumanities.org.
This is Dr. Laura Gillot, and when I listen to podcasts, I always listen to the One Mic, One Voice show.
Welcome back, folks. When will America change? What country is that? It's a country that has done its share of ills around the globe, not just here in America, but around the globe. And one of those, when we talk about taking children from their parents, when we talk about breaking up families, that's nothing new. During slavery, this was a common practice. Children being sold away from their parents, never to see them again. There wasn't a policy to bring them back again, but never to see them again. Let's take a listen to this clip.
1841, New Orleans, ground zero for the slave trade.
How much?
It's auction day, the day every slave fears the most.
1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000.
In the first half of the 19th century, over 500,000 slaves are sold at auction. It's a business worth $2 billion to the Southern economy. Since the cotton boom, the value of slaves has skyrocketed. Now men cost $1,000, women $800, children $500. Solomon Northrop, an educated free man from the North, was kidnapped into slavery.
Go, boy, you come over here.
He would make us hold up our heads, walk us briskly back and forth, while customers would feel our hands and arms and bodies. Make us open up our mouths and show our teeth, precisely as a jockey examines a horse which he is about to barter for or purchase. Scars upon a slave's back were considered evidence of a rebellious or unruly spirit and hurt his sale.
90% of all African Americans are slaves. 4 million men, women, and children.
We had based this country on everyone having inalienable rights to freedom and equality, and yet we created a system of abject persecution.
Slaves are fattened for auction, like livestock. Dark-skinned men are bought for the fields, light-skinned women for the house. Traders lie about their ages, even dye a slave's gray hairs.
For the plantation owners, it was like just going to your local supermarket to get sugar or flour. They had become so desensitized to the humanity of the slave that they did not see them as human beings.
Buyers demand the most fertile slaves for breeding. The most expensive are light-skinned teenage virgins. Rape is common. Eliza's from a state plantation. She's being sold with her 2 children, Emily and Randall. In Louisiana, it's illegal for children under 11 to be taken from their parents.
Boy, come over here.
It happens all the time.
You know, 140 years is not a really long time in the context of history. So it's hard for me to believe that blacks didn't have any rights here. They weren't treated as human beings. They were treated like animals, essentially.
Sir, please.
All right, you go. There's your business.
Oh, my life.
Over half the sales at auction will tear a family apart.
If you've ever been 8, to think of being separated from your mother and your father and sold and you'll never see them again. The horror of that, the poignancy of all of that, and yet that's the kind of thing that happened across the South up until the end of slavery.
Okay, my final offer. $1,000 for that man. Yep. $900 for that man. The woman there, $700.
Please, Mama, my child. Sir!
I have seen mothers kissing for the last time the faces of their dead offspring, but never have I seen such an exhibition of intense grief as when Eliza was parted from her child.
Come on, here you go.
Wow. I mean, that's heart-wrenching. I mean, auction day. Auction day. You know, I don't know, do I put on my Sunday best? You know, put on my boots and shine them up and dust off my suit because it's auction day. I'm not going to get a goat, you know. Maybe in my mind, in a slave owner's mind, I'm going to get a goat, but I'm going to get a human being. As a matter of fact, I'm probably going to break up that family because I probably want the little boy, or maybe I want the mother, maybe I want the father. Nothing new, folks. Nothing new. How many black families were separated and never, can you imagine at 11 years old, younger, being taken from your parents to never see them again? What did Elijah Cummings say? That their parents have been deported, but the kids are still here. History repeats itself. This was a $2 billion economy for the South. The selling of black bodies. Oh, for a man, you could get $1,000. Wow. Well, I don't know, man. What's my worth? I don't know. I don't know if there's ever been, if somebody would put a price tag on me. I don't know. With inflation, I might be worth, $10,000 a day. I don't know. But for women, $800, and for a child, $500, which was a lot back then. 4 million slaves. And, I like what Reverend Al said, desensitize, not seen as human beings. Folks, that's what we're looking at now. That's what we're looking at now. That's why people can say it's okay, build a wall, keep our borders safe. There are criminals coming in here. Are the little babies criminals? I mean, is the little girl that's crying because she's being separated from her mother a criminal? Right. See, if we can demonize them, if we can make them less than, if we can push them to the margin of our society, then it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to do that to them. Because you know what? They're not really human. That little child, the trauma that child, you know what? No. But when you think about your child being given or put through that trauma, it's different because you see your child as being human. You see your child as having value, right? And see, it happens to be that these are black and brown. Well, hold on for a second. Okay, let's switch it up. Let's go to the Native Americans. Let's see what happened to their children. For more than 100 years, thousands of Native American children were ripped from their families and sent to boarding schools to be civilized. Among them was Dennis Banks. He will become a founder of the American Indian movement.
They wanted to destroy our identity, and they put us on these boarding schools. I'm one of them that they put in these boarding schools. Destroy, kill the Indian, save the man. And over 100,000 children were taken from their homes and pulled, and a lot in our family, and I'm fighting, where am I going? And my mom and my grandma are right there, and I'm trying to hold on to them, and they come and take us apart. But that scene was, multiply that by 100,000 children that were taken by force from their mothers and from their grandmas and grandparents. That destroyed the language, destroyed the songs. Matter of fact, you couldn't sing any native song. You couldn't speak any native language. The vernacular would be English, and English only. That's how they wrote it up.
In the boarding schools?
Yeah. And there was corporal punishment there. But there was also, I was in a school where there was priests and nuns. And that was the first one, and I heard the screams. And I was part of the screams. And the running away, and the beatings, and the whippings by belts and leather and raping. I heard those screams. I hear it today. I said I would never forgive this government for allowing a policy like that to be inflicted upon us. And so historical trauma is still with us. And that's when Standing Rock happened, all of this trauma and saying, hey, we're gonna go, we gotta go support them at all costs.
Wow. Okay. Now, I tried to say to you that history bears witness to this. It is clear that America has a history of tearing families apart. The question is why, though? The question is why? Well, we find it here in what they tried to do to the Native Americans. Conform. They wanted them to conform to their society. As this man said, 100,000 children. Today we're talking, let's say 2,500. Let's say 3,000. 100,000 children. Out of 4 million slaves, how many families were broken up? How many children were taken? Wow. I believe the number's astronomical. They weren't allowed to sing their own songs in their native tongue. They weren't allowed to speak their native language. They were beaten, even if they tried to speak their native tongue. Why? Because they were being Americanized. They took away their clothes. They couldn't even dress. They couldn't even dress according to their own customs and culture. Took it all away. He said they took away the songs, took away the language. When they took black people from Africa, they stripped them of their language, they stripped them of their identity, they stripped them of their culture, they stripped them. The difference is in the native peoples, they tried to humanize them in a very Anglo-Saxon way. But with black people, they denied them their humanity and treated them as animals. The rapes, right? The rapes. Sounds familiar, right? What about these kids now? Whether the atrocities are going on behind closed doors that we don't even know of. People do terrible things when they're in high stress environments. Abu Ghraib prison, remember that? But this historical trauma that the native peoples deal with, that is handed down generationally, you don't think they're aware of this? You don't think they walk around knowing or feeling the effects of this sort of psychological brutality brought against them? Just like black people walk around realizing the psychological wage that we must pay each and every day for the atrocities of slavery and so much more. Okay, let's go back. Elijah Cummings. What country is that? We're better than that. Boy, I tell you. No, that's America. Another comment, who is making sure there is nothing bad happening to the children while away from their parents? That's exactly my point, Elijah. That's exactly my point. Nobody. And if you don't think that those kids are in harm's way, then you're right in the camp that says it's okay to lock them up, because they are being locked up. Are the kids a danger to you? Why we have them in cages? Why? What do you cage? You cage up that which is dangerous. That's why we have prisons, right? Because it's, quote unquote, they're dangerous individuals that we need to lock away from society. Why do you cage them up? Because they're not really human in your eyes, right? Let's just toss them into there. I mean, but America is guilty of this, folks. The trauma, the trauma. We're going to talk about the trauma. We're going to look at the trauma. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back and examine these effects on children. It's real. And it's happening in our midst. Folks, we'll be right back.
Hi everyone, this is Roxy Davis.
And this is Deborah Burris. And we are
The Roxy by Design Show. Our show is designed to bring healing as we share our stories while God redesign our lives.
So take a ride with us.
So you can find us at
Podbean, iTunes,
Facebook and Twitter,
and
blackenstudios.com. So thank you everyone for listening to The Roxy by Design Show. You have a blessed day.
And we love you.
This is DT of the One Mic, One Voice podcast. Just want to let you guys know you can go over to iTunes and search us at One Mic, One Voice, and be sure to rate and review our episodes. Let us know about any feedback that you have and what you enjoy about the episodes. Also, you can go over to Stitcher where you can get the latest and freshest episodes of our podcast streamed directly to your smartphone or iPad. No downloading or syncing. How cool. Real smooth. Also, we'd just like to take the time to thank you for your time and for your energy and for spending time with us as we discuss the historical record of our time.
All right. Children are our future. Yeah. Nah, I think we mean just white children, not black children, not Latino children. I'm talking the dominant culture, those that assail to such sort of mindset. Now, I know all of the dominant culture is not like that. We had massive protests yesterday regarding the Trump's policy on separating kids from their parents, and on the immigration, on ICE. People are calling to ban ICE, to get rid of it. So many of those are our white brothers and sisters. They're out there on the front lines. They're protesting. They are counting the cost, the sacrifice. They are there. And I would not deny that. Our white brothers and sisters have always been there. Those of like mind, those that see the world, I think, in a way that that brings dignity to all people, regardless of their socioeconomic status, race, gender. So by no means am I inferring this into the entire white population. I know better. My family is a rainbow, so don't quickly criticize me. However, those that are in charge, just look at them. I mean, it's not a whole lot of Latino folks in charge, or Asian people, or black people, right? I mean, I'm just saying that, yeah, I'm just pointing that out. So it's a white male dominated society. Old, let me put that, old white male-dominated society, but they are trying to train their young man to carry in the same vein. But the trauma. Now, I really wish I could get very deep into trauma that children experience, and maybe we'll do a separate show dealing with adverse childhood experiences, the ACE scores, and what that says about a person's life and the struggles in which they've had to deal with later on in life. But let's for a moment let's listen to this interview and talking about the trauma.
President Trump may have signed an executive order ending his administration's family separation policy, but according to the Department of Homeland Security, more than 2,300 children have already been separated from their parents. Child psychologists say this could have profound impacts on a child's development. Dr. Jessie Warner-Cohn joins me now. She is a health psychologist. Thanks so much for being here, Dr. Warner-Cohn.
Thank you.
Let's start, first of all, with the concept of separation, because I think when people hear that, they may not fully understand the critical bond that we know is so essential in those early years for a child. So talk to me first of all about what separation does for a very young child, especially when that separation happens.
Yeah, well, basic needs for young children aren't just food and housing, it's also attachment to a caregiver. For the vast majority of children in the world, that's a parent or some other close relative, but when you're separated from that caregiver at a young age, it can have lifelong effects on how you're able to relate to others and relate to yourself.
And so now you have situations where not only has there been separation, but where there is an institutionalization that's happened in these various detention facilities. What are some of the implications of that, a child being in a detention center?
Well, you know, really these kids need a lot of warmth, and that's the age, especially young children and through their early adolescence. And without that warmth and loving caregiver, we've seen a lot of research talking about lifelong anxiety, depression, trouble forming relationships throughout their entire lifetime, and lots of behavioral issues that may manifest immediately or may take a while to manifest as the anger builds up inside.
Why is that these are such long-lasting, profound effects for things that happen at a time when some people might say, well, they may not even really remember this experience?
Oh, all of these situations are imprinted on the child very deeply, whether or not they can recall it verbally later on or not. The concept of being separated from the person that you love and the person that you rely on changes the way a person sees themselves and sees the world, and able to understand that.
And so when you have a situation where there may or may not be reunification, for instance, or there may not be even contact with a parent, whether by phone or video chat or otherwise, what does that do then for a child's sense of self and a child's sense of his or her place in the world?
Yeah, that uncertainty is very difficult for children. They need consistency, they need routine, they need to know what's happening. And to not know where they're going to be or what's going to happen, both to themselves and their loved ones, can really be devastating to how a child is able to self-regulate themselves, their emotions and their behaviors.
Yeah, because I think people may not understand. We're not just talking about some abstract sort of emotional thing. There is a physiological reaction that happens, right, with stress hormones that are produced when these children are under this prolonged stress.
Absolutely. These stress hormones, cortisol and the like, really affect both their physical health and their mental health, and leave kids open for risk of diabetes and heart disease through their lifetime, and poor reactions to stress going forward as well.
And so the question becomes, is this kind of damage irreparable? Is this the kind of thing that can be reversed? Let's say these children are reunited with their parents.
Well, the earlier there are mental health interventions, the better the outcome. And so there's been a call today to have mental health services available for these children immediately, to try to start reversing some of the issues that have already been created.
All right, Dr. Jessie Warner-Cohn. Dr. Warner-Cohn, thank you so much for your insight. I appreciate it.
America, are you listening? Okay. President Trump and his administration are responsible for inflicting trauma on these children. It didn't have to happen like this. They didn't have to be separated from their caregiver. You heard the doc. Lifelong consequences. You know, there's so much science about trauma, childhood trauma, and what it does to the brain. The stress hormones, how it leads to poor physical and emotional health, inability to fit into society, to build proper relationships. Lifelong, right? Although they may be there for 6 months, it might be 60 years of trauma that they have to deal with. Think about the Native American children. Think about the gentleman that was still alive that talked about it. Elijah said, what is wrong with the people working at the border? Why do they carry out these unspeakable orders like they have no free will nor compassion? Yeah, it's a great question. It's a great question. How can you carry out inhumane orders from someone that is insane, right? Well, how could you attend auction day and auction off human beings? How could you buy human beings, right? How could we rip Native children away from their parents, put them in schools created and ran by the U.S. government, prevent them from speaking their own language, ripping them of their culture? How could we? Because, Elijah, this is America. We're not better than this. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm like the next person. I would like to see America change. But this is who we are. This is where we are. We cannot be in denial of who we are and what we are. And we have been, throughout history, we've broken up families. Why? Because they represent the other. And until they become like us, and I'm speaking of the white European Anglo-Saxon, until they become that, then they're not really worthy of coming into our country. This is why Trump said, I want more people from Norway, right? Until they fit the norm of white nationalism, which I just frankly don't stand a chance of ever doing. I just don't, blame it on God. This is what he did. But until they fit that mold, they will always be seen as the other. Think about this for a moment. Okay. This can lead to anxiety, depression, many behavioral issues, inability to form proper relationships throughout your life. This has always been America. Now, I'm not sitting up here saying that America hasn't done anything good or this and that, but I don't have to glorify America while criticizing it. That's not the formula. This is not good, bad cop here. I'm speaking of where we are right now in this moment, where we have kids in cages, where we have deported their parents back to their country of origin, where they might not never see each other again. And what I'm saying to you is that this is nothing new. It has happened before. Think about the Japanese internment camps. They were different during World War II. Let's lock them up. They don't represent who we are. Think about the trauma on those kids, right? Mass incarceration, police brutality, weaponizing of ICE, demonization of Muslims, racism, sexism, xenophobia. Yes, this is America, right? And until we start having that conversation, it's not about making America great again. We just went through history, right? We touched on just a few moments. I mean, we didn't talk about Jim Crow. We didn't talk about convict leasing. We didn't talk about, we could have hit on a whole lot of other things, right? This is America. And until we start talking about America in the true sense of what it has done to its own citizens and to those who they deem not citizens, we'll never make America great, right? Folks, we're going to take a break, and we're going to be right back.
This is Elijah Bailey.
This is Richard Taplin.
From The Elijah Bailey Show, bringing you all the content that you could ever desire about anime, manga, comic books, martial arts, fitness, and more.
You can find us at Elijah Bailey Show on the official Facebook page, and also Elijah Bailey Show without the W on Twitter and Instagram.
Make sure to follow, subscribe, like, comment, and rate on iTunes and Podbean.
This is Chad Reynolds, poet, publisher. Listen to One Mic, One Voice like I do. You won't regret it.
Struggles ain't a problem when there's unity. Stay tough even if you're in a tragedy. Hard times, see we chuck it off the balcony. And catching good vibes become frequent. Yo, it feels nice, a touch above decent. I thought to say, even though you know it's blatant. Brighter days are gonna come, stay patient.
Someday, ooh, child, someday things are going to get easier. Original song done by the Five Stair Steps. It's been done so many times over and over again. I thought it was fitting for the legacy of the abuse and the suffering of children. It is of great concern, it should be to all of us, of what we are witnessing today. And by the protests and outrage, I know there are many Americans of all shades of color that share these concerns. But November is extremely important. The vote is extremely important. If we want to change the direction of this country, folks, you have to get up. You got to get out to the polls. You got to get your friends out to the polls, because otherwise we will continue in this downward spiral, in my opinion. Elijah says, I read that there were a number of Republican Party members who are against separating the children, yet we do not see but one or two protesting. Yeah, I agree. I think there's many in the Republican Party that disagrees with this sort of policy. You know, it takes courage to stand up. And I'm not saying that they don't have courage, but to stand alone, it takes courage to do that. And I think that's one thing that we're lacking among our leadership, not just in Congress, locally, the state level, city level. We're lacking great leadership, and we are experiencing the fallout of that. When will America change? That's the question. It's not we can't say that we're better than this. We can't say that this has never been America. We can't say that, yeah, it happened in a period then and we're not going to repeat it again. We can't say that. So since we can't say that, since we can't believe the lies, why can't we embrace the truth? The truth, as painful as it is the only thing that will liberate us. It's the only thing that will take us from the abyss of ignorance into the light of knowledge. This is our moment. The next time you hear a person say, well, this is not America, no, you say this is America. But what are we going to do about it? Right? If you don't acknowledge that it's broke, you can't fix it. And America is a broken nation. It's broken. And we have inflicted pain upon those because we are in pain. Until we can heal the American psyche, the American spirit, we will continue to inflict pain upon others because we ourselves are in pain. Because history will speak of us. Somewhere in the distant future, a scribe will reach down deep into the archives of our time. And what will she find? Will she discover that we overcame our differences? Will she find that out of many, we became one? Or will she find that we solved nothing and remain a divided peoples? Yes, history will speak of us.
We can make a difference if we try. We can beat the change that's in our lives. All we gotta do is work together. We gotta raise our children better. We gotta stop the hate, and spread the love.
One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. Your choice.
Today's broadcast is being brought to you by Blacken Studios. To learn more about Blacken Studios, please visit them at blackenstudios.com or visit them on their Facebook page, Blacken Studios. Today's broadcast is also being brought to you by Perry Publishing and Broadcasting. To learn more about Perry Publishing and Broadcasting, please visit their website at perrypublishingandbroadcasting.net. The opinions of the One Mic, One Voice show do not reflect the views of Blacken Studios or Perry Publishing and Broadcasting. Thank you for downloading the One Mic, One Voice show.